We've talked about things that you've done in the past. A little bit, we've touched on them. So, Rent the Runway, we know that you worked at Uber, that you worked at, um, and now also at Palmetto. In all of these roles, you help build machine learning teams and launch major data initiatives. Um, and so, yeah, do you have anything kind of like high level, or I guess it could be low level, whatever level you want, strategies or leadership principles that you'd like to share with the audience that helped you manage these super high performing teams at super high performing companies, and drive progress at them?
I don't think there's a one size fits all leadership style or kind of set of rituals to impose on a team. I learned that in particular, as many of us did through COVID, where so much had to change in the way we worked together and supported one another. And as we've continued to work from home, what worked in the early days of COVID has really changed. And so expanding, taking that same concept and extrapolating it to change is constant and accounting for it as you figure out how to lead your organization is a huge part. And just sort of being willing to try things and recognize when they're not working and take someone else's idea and run with that is a big part of my style. I think it's coming back to that humility that I hire for. I try to keep myself held to the same standard of willingness to put aside my ego or my belief about what's right um, and make decisions based on what's in front of me, no matter whose idea it is. But general principles that are pretty consistently serving me well. One of them is this, again, hire the right people. It's not a silver bullet. You have to do a lot to enable those people too, but the wrong hiring decision, we all know, is really painful. And the right hiring decision is absolutely joyful. And from there, I think it really can differ by team as well as like the type of company you're at. I would run things really differently at Uber than I was at a tiny startup. But when you're working with technologists broadly, one thing I find really valuable is separating the immediate needs and immediate priorities from the long term vision and making it very clear to your team how every step of a roadmap ladders up to that bigger goal that you're very excited by. But in exchange, also making it really clear to leaders around the company where they're going to have to wait to see something because it's not an overnight outcome. And in some cases, I'm thinking about Rent the Runway, for instance, there were certain projects that we deemed full research mode, and we were purely experimenting with 20% of our time while we were shipping code on other projects that were already in production. And so, constantly measuring incremental improvements on things like recommender systems that were live on the site, but telling our leadership also that 20% of time was really held aside for demoing new machine learning models as they came out, reading papers, and testing how we might incorporate them into our stack, and then sharing those research learnings as well with the ideas for products to build on them was, I think, what kept the exec buy-in there. So separating those ideas of shipping value and discovering has been really good as part of both the motivation and the translation layer to exec teams, especially now where I think every exec team is trying to be very, very lean and cost conscious. And discovery for discovery's sake is a little harder to finance than it might have been 10 years ago.
Yeah, but interestingly, also simultaneously with the kinds of work that we do and our listeners do, more valuable than ever. Like we are in the spot where the most innovation and excitement is possible. And so that kind of 20% investment, it's like that seems like a great deal. I mean, with smart people who are willing to take some risks and try some new things, the potential for dramatically changing a product or business operations to be more revenue generating or more profitable, it's never been a better time.
No, and I think finding those product and business leaders to be your champion as you start experimenting is so key to taking something from discovery mode and getting it on the roadmap in the future. Um, at Rent the Runway at Palmetto, I have the people who are open to thinking about the future. That's the type of company I like to join, and just being really narrow in who you choose for each project so you don't get the whole company spun up around an idea. You really want to be able to incubate it. And then when it's ready, but still have them ready to run with you when it's time to set your priorities for the next half or the next quarter, however you do that. That's been really successful for me to not be the lone voice saying, I promise this model is cool. It's going to have an impact. You have to bring the right stakeholders along for the ride.